Alright, so we're working on organizing for our project here, and we basically need a reel or a spool that we can wrap our string around and things won't get jumbled or crossed as we go. This is a wonderful cardboard insert that's on the bolts of fabric. So if you went and bought fabric, maybe you noticed these at the end here, might look a little more familiar. Just go in and ask the fabric store if they have any of these available. They're always happy to have you haul away their garbage. So I've got one side here already marked, one edge of the end already marked. These are about every ½ inch, and you can mark them in any way you want, any ruler, whatever. That's just your guideline for right now. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing with this here. We're then going to take it, instead of lining up with those marks, we're going to go about halfway between them. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark so that on the other side, again, we have marks every ½ inch. Kim has been generous enough to let me use her strip cutting guide here. I'm trying not to get too much ink on it. And so these are every ½ inch, but they're going to be staggered from the marks on the other side. So it's kind of like alternating sides. So one side straight across from this mark, you'll notice my marks on each side. It's actually going to be a solid piece of cardboard there when we're finished. This will help us get more string on our spool, a little more densely, but still keep our spool from falling apart or being cut open too much to where it loses structural integrity. Now, some spools are squared off like this one. Some of them are pointed a little and are a little bit different. But whatever type you're using, you can do this or something similar to it, and it will all work out just fine. So, this is not an exact science, this is a convenience. So you're going to do this to both edges, both skinny edges. You can do it to this one side, and you're also going to do it over here on this other side. So once you have those all marked out, and you put the marker away so you're not writing on yourself, we're actually going to come through, and you can use a variety of different methods, and you'll get different results. But these marks, let me remove Kim's strip cutting guide so I don't get in trouble here. But each of these marks, to make it easy, I'm sure you've got a steak knife in your kitchen. If not, I'm sure that you can find one at Goodwill for like 40 cents or less. So each of these marks, we're just cutting the corner a little bit. Just a quick and easy little line. Make sure you don't cut your fingers. I'm clearly used to like stabilizing with my guide hand here as I insert the needle for acupuncture. But watch your fingers as you do this. And so we've got these cuts here that thread can go in. And we're going to come through on the other edge also. And we're going to do this side as well. Now these cuts will be guides for the string, just to keep it from sliding so that the string does not overlap itself. If it overlaps itself, things get tangled and you have a messy, messy, messy project. And we are all waiting for you to untangle it. Literally, we are all waiting for you to untangle it. So, please do something like this or anything else that will help you keep things nice and neat and organized and not overlapping. So, I've got a few cuts in here. We'll have cuts on the other side, and that will provide a nice straight line. Now, when you mark this second side, I would highly recommend that if your marks are at this level, then on the other side, you do the same marks. So don't stagger on this side. Make whatever line these are on match up over here. And then stagger this side with these so that whatever the large flat side is, make sure the cuts match. That'll help you line up your string nicely. It'll keep everything nice and even. And that way, as you go with your project, one other thing I'd recommend, a little slice at each end to give you a start or a stop spot. So, let's say you're going to get started. You just want something to hold your string, right? That makes things a little bit easier. Okay, so you get started. And then as you go, you'll wrap around and it will go into each of those slots. And the first time through, you notice how we hooked on this side, on the near side. The second time through, we hooked on the far side. and we'll keep going around like this, keeping a nice even spool, an nice even reel. Now, if you're hooking both the top side and the bottom side, if I pull my starting string out of the way, you can see how it will line up nice and neat, and you'll have a nice, neat looking spool. Things will not get tangled, and that's what we're shooting for. So when you have the cuts done on both sides, that works great. Now make sure you're using a nice heavy string. This one even might be a little bit thin. You can use a slightly heavier one, because you want to make sure that when you're pulling these in and out of whatever cut you make, that it doesn't break the string, and that's the kicker. Okay, so make sure that it doesn't break the string, whatever you do for this. One of the things that you can do to maybe help make that a little easier, other than using larger string, is you can come through each of these and you can cut at your mark at a bit of an angle each direction, and that will, it's almost like cutting in a little wedge rather than just a line. That'll make it a little wider. Another option that you can do is, we tried some of these with a hacksaw. I just took a hacksaw blade because it's a little bit larger than this. I'm like, well, not many people have a hacksaw. So there's that option. And then you'll notice these large square ones were actually made with a drywall saw, which has a thicker blade also. And just drawing those across it. It chewed up the cardboard a little bit more because the drywall saw is not really a tool of finesse. But the big square gouges that it creates are really nice as far as not getting the string stuck in there. It goes in, it keeps it from sliding, but it also comes out really easily. So that is an option if you have a drywall saw handy. That does seem to work well. It's less pretty, but it does what you want, and that's the goal here, is doing what you need. And so this was the experimental one with trying a few different ways. The hacksaw, for those of you that are curious, did kind of work. It's not quite as smooth as I would prefer. However, it's definitely functional. So it goes in, it holds it well, and it pops out fairly easily as well. So your steak knife is probably handy for a lot of people. So there it is as an option. I'd definitely try and make the V cuts if you're using the steak knife. The hacksaw, a little bit better. The big squared off drywall saw actually works quite excellent as far as the function of the slots. It just doesn't look quite as pretty when you've made those cuts. So there you go. That's how to make your spool. You'll probably need anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 of these. But if you make up one, get it filled up. If you need another, make another, and on you go. Okay? So there's your organizing tip of the day. Thank you.